Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Happy Meadow Tales. I'm your host, Steve Kitts, The Hungry Hike. I'm glad to have you back here on another episode of Happy Meadow Tales. I'm your host, Steve Kitts. In today's story, we're going to talk about two of our favorite pals from Sunny Meadow, Brom the bear and Picky the porcupine, who had set off on a simple trip for snacks, but get way more than they bargained for. And let's head over to Sunny Meadow and see what they're up to. It was a sunny and peaceful day. Brom the bear was lying flat on his back on the soft grass. Next to him, Picky the porcupine, who was reading a comic book called Zap, Zonk, Zowie out loud. And then Captain Carrot used his laser letters to escape the cheese trap. Brom chuckled. "You always find the goofiest stuff, Picky." Just then, grumble! Brom sat up and held his belly. "Whoa, that wasn't Captain Carrot. That was my stomach." Picky blinked. "I was just thinking the same thing. You hungry?" Brom stood up and stretched. "Starving. Let's head over to Sam's bakery." Picky's eyes lit up. "Do you think he still has those caramel apple scones?" "Only one way to find out." Brom grinned, and off they went. Now, it should have been a simple walk, but nothing is ever too simple in Sunny Meadow. First, they had to cross the creek, but as usual, the stepping stones were missing. "Where'd they go this time?" Brom asked. "I heard the frogs took them to build a diving board," Picky said with a shrug. So the two built a makeshift bridge using fallen branches and a bit of teamwork. Brom held the logs in place while Picky scooted across. "Easy peasy," Brom cheered. Next up, a big mud puddle. Brom stopped. "You know what this means." "Yep," Picky said, backing up for a running start. "Mudslide!" Splash! They slid across the mud puddle, laughing all the way, until Brom ended up with mud in his ears, and Picky had twigs sticking out of his quills like a crown. "Worth it!" Picky said with a grin. Finally, they reached the last hill before the bakery, but the hill was covered with dandelion fluff. Brom sneezed. "Achoo!" Picky sneezed. "Achoo! Achoo!" They both sneezed 7 more times before making it to the top. And there, at the bottom of the hill, stood Sam's bakery, warm and inviting. They burst through the door, muddy, sneezing, and giggling. Sam looked up from frosting a cake. "You two look like you've been through a storm." "We've been through mud, fluff, and missing stones," Brom said. "But it was worth it." Sam smiled. "You came to the right place." Moments later, Brom sat before a berry burst bun, and Picky had a caramel apple scone, just like he had hoped for. The end. Wow, what a trip! Brom and Picky could have stayed in Sunny Meadow, but they knew that sometimes a little adventure makes the reward even sweeter. They helped each other along the way, laughed through all the challenges, and most importantly, they stuck together, just like best friends do. And so, remember friends, even simple plans can turn into something awesome, a great adventure with the right attitude and a good friend by your side. Well, thanks for joining me on this episode of Happy Meadow Tales. I've been your host, Steve Kitts. If you like it, share it, and let somebody else enjoy the goodness that you find in Happy Meadow Tales. See you next time. God bless, and keep smiling.